Cool. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lucas. I am undocumented, unafraid, and here to stay. Keep saying that to myself. Yep. And I wanted to share with you all a little bit about my story, about some of the work that we're doing here in Connecticut, and just about the environment that we're living in, especially the undocumented community here in Connecticut, here in the United States. Before I go, as Mark said, I'm the Executive Director of Connecticut Students for a Dream, and we are a statewide youth-led network fighting for the rights of undocumented youth and their families here in Connecticut. And one of the powerful tools that we use in the work that we do that has been able to shift policy here in Connecticut is through sharing our story. And my story ties in very well with the story of C4D. I was there since the beginning. So I'll share with you all a little bit about myself. As Mark said, I'm from Brazil. I come from a very poor childhood. My parents never graduated high school. They worked at the Dannon factory. That is also the reason why I can't eat yogurt anymore, of all the yogurt that I ate as a little kid. But education was always enforced in my household. And my parents knew that they didn't have any opportunities growing up, and so they wanted to give me and my sister the opportunities. And so I remember throughout the 90s, my parents talking about their dream of coming to the United States. And they were saving up money for almost a decade, since I was born actually, to come to this country. And and I had I had an aunt here and a couple of cousins that were here that helped us to come. And we took a bus one day and we went to Rio de Janeiro to get a tourist visa. And we were able to get a tourist visa. And that in itself is a big privilege that a lot of folks don't understand. To get a tourist visa, especially in Latin America, in other countries, is extremely difficult. And only a small percentage of people get it. So we were able to get the tourist visa. And we immigrated to the United States in 2000. I was 9 years old. April 7, 2000 is when we came in. And I remember my parents in 2000 and early 2001 talking about how we were now undocumented, but I didn't know what that meant. And I was going through school and nothing was affecting me, so I thought we were okay. And it wasn't until 9/11 happened and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security and all these things started happening, and my parents started getting really worried. That I started recognizing, okay, something is up, but I still didn't understand what it was. And it was when I reached high school. We moved to Stamford, Connecticut, where my parents are currently now. And it was in high school where you start thinking about getting a driver's license, right? You start thinking about going to college. And that's when I sat my parents down and I was like, can you explain to me how does this work and stuff like that? And they didn't know how to advise me. And also they told me that I couldn't go to college. They told me I couldn't get a driver's license. They told me because of my status, I wasn't able to do anything, that I should get ready to work after high school. And I was a really good student. I was involved in student government and all the clubs, and I did all of these things. But if you look at my high school transcript, you can clearly see when I found out that I was undocumented. And that's the case with a lot of students that find out that they're undocumented in high school and their grades dropped. So you can totally see in that semester, I was getting like my first D's in high school. And thankfully I had a guidance counselor that I shared. I was really nervous and I shared my story with her and she was able to help me and told me, you can go to college. And it was, I started applying to colleges. I got into a lot of schools, but they didn't give me any financial aid. I got into a liberal arts college. They gave me almost a full package And I was really excited to be the first person in my family to graduate high school and go to college. And then they took my scholarship away because there were opposition because of my status in the scholarship committee, et cetera. And it came to a point where I actually got depressed and I wanted to go back to Brazil, and it was really tough. But my guidance counselor told me to go to Norwalk Community College. And that was the best decision that I ever took because I started getting involved with student clubs that dealt with social justice. And I remember they did a whole event on immigration. This was 2009, early 2010, when the DREAM Act, which was legislation that has been in Congress since 2000, was coming up for a vote again. And it was at that time where there was a couple of college students here in Connecticut that also wanted to create an extension of the DREAM Act movement, the Dreamers, here in Connecticut. And so they in the fall of 2010, they had a meeting at Yale University. It was called the Dream Summit, where they invited a bunch of dreamers, a bunch of undocumented students together, and I was completely scared to go. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a trap. I didn't tell anyone, not even my parents, that I was going to New Haven, but I did, and that was where Connecticut Students for a Dream was created. And for the first time, we were trying to build a community with each other, just students that were going through the same sort of struggles, and we built this beautiful organization that now is statewide, and we have reach all across the state. Really being there for more of a community for undocumented young people, but also making sure that we're sharing our stories so that immigration, which is a highly politicized issue right now, is not just based on the numbers, but it's based on like stories of people's struggles and experiences, and actually, what happens, and how the immigration system that we have right now is completely broken and it traps people in this system. So now, to give an example, my parents were able to legalize their status in 2014. They started with the process in 2001, and they just got their green card in 2014. And which is great, but I aged out of the process. So now in my family, I'm the only one that's undocumented, and I have two younger siblings that are citizens, and my parents and my sister are green card holders. And so that's just to give you an idea about how long these processes actually take, how expensive these processes actually are. We've been scammed early in the 2000s by attorneys who ended up not even being attorneys. And so these are a lot of the struggles that our community goes through. And especially now, it's even more like visceral, sort of that feeling that you're constantly being criminalized and attacked. But as a community, as advocates for immigration policy, especially undocumented youth, were able to push and win, really big policy changes. And so one of those changes was the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. And so when in December 2010, actually I think it was December 18th, so like literally 6 years ago, the DREAM Act failed in DC by 5 votes in the Senate. It passed the House, so you can imagine that, and then it failed in the Senate by 5 votes. And that was a very devastating moment. And actually, when our team was thinking about it, we were watching the election results together, texting each other. A lot of us had a lot of parallel emotions, right, with what happened in the DREAM Act vote and then what happened with the elections. And so we were holding each other. But after the DREAM Act failed, the Obama administration was still deporting young people. And as Mark said, his administration deported the most people in the history of the US, which is something like that not a lot of people understand. And there was still a lot of young people that are being deported. And so the undocumented youth movement decided to push the Obama administration to actually grant what's called prosecutorial discretion and relieve young people from deportations. And on June 12, on June 15, 2012, Obama actually announced the DACA program, which is an executive action. It's not a law, right? And it's an executive action, so it could be taken away any moment. And by the next administration, they can take it away January 21st. And it basically gives you a work permit so you can work legally in the United States. It protects you from deportation. There's limited travel abilities, so you can travel because of work, because of education reasons, or emergency family matters. So I was able to go to Brazil a couple months ago to see my grandfather before he passed, and that was my first time going in 16 years. So I'm still trying to process that trip. And also there's some work-related benefits that you're also eligible for. But even with this program, there's a lot of barriers. You have to reapply every 2 years. It's $465 every time you apply. And it's actually, the fee is going up starting in December. And so you can think of like a family with multiple children. It gets really expensive, and that's a barrier for a lot of us in the undocumented community. You also have to prove that you've been in the country since June 15, 2007, and you have to prove that you were inside the U.S. on June when the program was announced. And so this is a lot of paperwork that you need to send to the government, right? And they need to detail every year that you've been here. And as an organization, when this was announced, and we were in DC pushing Obama to give this, a lot of us participated even in civil disobedience actions. And when this was announced here in Connecticut, at the time that it was announced, there were close to 10,000 people that would qualify for the program. And we had over 46 information sessions across the state, working with congregations, trying to get young people to apply. When DACA came out in August 2012, we helped over 350 people apply for the program, and we're still doing clinics to help people renew. And what's important is that this program, and the reason why we're talking about this program now, it's because it benefits, I think now we're up to 800,000 people that have qualified under this program. And this is something that is very tangible, something that the Trump administration could take it away at any moment. And so one of the things that we've been talking about is, for the 800,000 people that have qualified for this program, their lives can change literally from day to night. And that goes back to that place where we were in, where as young people, we are scared of deportations. We're still scared of deportations because of our family members, right? But it's something that the Trump administration could take it away at any moment. And it's important that and there's a lot of advocacy trying to push the incoming administration to actually look at the benefits of this program, not just in localities, but also as a nation with all, taxes and stuff like that this program was able to provide. What's important in the incoming administration is that, and I think Mark alluded to this, the systems are already in place. It's not like Trump is coming in and changing all these systems, right? The enforcement will definitely be heightened, but the systems are already there. So when you talk about deportations and the process that ICE, which is Immigration Customs Enforcement, picks people up, and the Department of Homeland Security, the systems are already there and in place for mass deportations to happen, for mass criminalization to happen. And it's important that as a community in our locality, we have an understanding about what's at play and how these systems interact with each other, how federal ICE interacts with our local law enforcement, and how those collaborations or non-collaborations occur. And so, the budget for the Department of Homeland Security is bigger than FBI and CIA combined together, right? There are a lot of the detention centers that are keeping immigrants right now are privately owned. And so there is incentive there to keep these prisons full. There's an immense amount of discretion that are given to ICE agents to go and pick someone up. And so there are a lot of programs within DHS that are puts people in different priorities. So, they're trying to take away the criminals before, but we hear every single day of community members that are being picked up because of a broken taillight, because of simple acts, or things that they have done in the past and 20 years ago and that are getting picked up right now. So these are all the things that are in place that are important for, as a community, for you to recognize that you may not see this yourself or see how these systems work behind the scenes, but they are currently working. And it's important for you to be able to ask questions and get clarity around how, as a community, the local communities are collaborating with immigration, et cetera. The other important thing that I just want to mention, and it's very important, immigrants, right now we're living in a very xenophobic environment. And it's very important that we also don't keep criminalizing immigrants. And so there's this sort of notion about like what's a good versus bad immigrant. And we also have to remember that even the bad immigrants, right, they have family members. And a lot of these, and what's important to understand is that as an undocumented person, it's not like we're guaranteed due process because of the Constitution of the United States, but that's not what happens like in our localities. So when people get picked up for the simplest thing, there are times that they get forwarded to immigration before they even have a chance to plead their case and see a judge. And so a lot of the times when you hear in the media and narratives around, oh, we're trying to deport criminals and we're trying to get the criminals out first, well, it's important to question, right, that narrative in what is a criminal. Because if you get a DUI, under a DUI, just like one DUI can already put like you're considered a criminal based on the regulations of immigration. And so that can put you in a deportation track. So it's really important to just have an understanding about the moment that we're in, and also give and ask questions. I'll be here and we're gonna have a question and answer. There's a lot of this is not clear and it's not easily publicized. But so ask questions, and it's important that you also understand sort of the moment that the undocumented community is going through. We're living scary times. And, I was talking to someone and they said, at least we're not in Arizona, which is true, but there's still raids happening here in Connecticut. We just found there was an immigration raid in Bridgeport just a couple weeks ago. I was, at a train station and I saw ICE agents just like walking in the train platform. So like these are also things that are happening here in Connecticut. And I think that this is the time for, as communities, to come together and protect one another and be inspired by love, right? And use love to hold each other and protect each other. And so with that, I think I'm going to forward my talk to Anna. Go ahead. All right. Thank you.